Liberty Bowl. We got Liberty Stadium here, Memphis, Tennessee, Kansas, and Arkansas. Big 12 SEC at you. Robbie, we get a total of 68.5 -3. That's the Razorbacks at home. What are you thinking here? Woo Pig Suey or the Kansas Jayhawks?
Yeah, interesting you said Arkansas at home, Drew, because in my notes here, this game is the Liberty Bowl, obviously played in Memphis, Tennessee. And when looking for reasons to play Arkansas here, I came up with recruiting because geographically, this is a very close area to Arkansas. And when you play these bowl games, this is an angle that we don't use. And again, we talk about how bowls are a different style handicap, but you do in bowl games play for recruits in some situations. And with Arkansas playing in Memphis, it's not a great road trip for them. Certainly not a reward road trip, a destination road trip, but it is Memphis. And the one thing that you can pull from a bowl game like this with a good showing is perhaps some recruits out of a pretty fertile territory. So for Arkansas, that was one thing. When I'm making a list of assets and liabilities, one of the assets for playing Arkansas would be, it's a chance to show for potential recruits. But everything else really lines up with Kansas here as far as side is concerned. Again, let's talk about motivation, right? Lance Leipold has this team in a bowl game. We haven't seen Kansas here since Mark Mangino. And so you have to expect Kansas to be fully motivated. They've played a tough enough schedule, guys. They've played plenty of teams that are comparable to this year's version of the Arkansas Razorbacks. So I don't fear them at the line of scrimmage being intimidated, when Arkansas gets off the bus being intimidated. None of that. I think Kansas certainly has lined up with some good Big 12 foes this year, showed well in many games. So I think they'll be just fine personnel-wise in this one. Comes down to I went through some rushing numbers because both teams like to run the football mostly, and they're both kind of mirror images, right? They both run it pretty well, and they both allow a lot of yardage on the ground. So I think ground games could be successful here. Question then becomes who can get me more through the air, who can hang on to the football better, because turnovers may turn out to dictate how this final score or the outcome results for us. I think Kansas, just off of motivation alone and ability to move the football and quality of competition this year. And again, this is not downgrading what Arkansas played. They played in the SEC West, but I just don't know. Sam Pittman, here's where I run into a dilemma, and maybe Ralph could help me out here. Sam Pittman certainly is a good motivator, and the kids play for him. I just don't know that this is where Arkansas thought they were going to end up to start the season. If you take Kansas, you're probably not getting a correct price here, a fair price. You're obviously, this game's already been bet down. I think odds makers kind of tilted towards Kansas to start with, because this is one of those games where, situational motivation factors are going to come into play. Still, if I had to play it and I haven't, I would look towards Kansas. I thought that the total would be an area for me to go to. 69 is like right on the cusp for me here, guys. I can't recommend it strong. I wouldn't recommend under, because I think both defenses can get lit up. After all, Arkansas just got beaten by Missouri and gave up nearly 30 points to Mizzou, who couldn't move the football all season long. So I think very slight leans. KU, you're not getting the right price, but I think the motivation might kick in, and also a slight lean toward the over if, in fact, conditions are good, because how many times have we turned on the Liberty Bowl and seen rain and a soggy, muddy field? That's always a possibility here in Memphis.
Kansas versus Arkansas up next, Ralph. What are you liking here?
Drew with a funny. Rob mentioned, having two quarterbacks is exciting. So, having Jalen Daniels and KJ Jefferson playing, it's going to be one of the rare bowl games. Complete motivation for me. I completely agree that Kansas is excited to be here, never expected to be here, got off to the season. Arkansas expected much better. Arkansas's defense was absolutely horrific. They were number 117 in the country, allowing their opponents 50 yards more per game than their average. But then, wait, Kansas was number 115 allowing their opponents 47 yards more per game. So you have a number 16 offensive Arkansas against opponent's average and the number 117 D. You have the 43rd offensive Kansas, again, versus their opponent's average with the number 115th D. Opt-outs, you give the lean to Kansas. Arkansas missing 3 receivers. They do have their top 2 receivers, but after that, depth is non-existent, as Knox, Jackson, and Sanders are all going to miss this bowl game. So I then went to the database. I may have talked about it on this show or I bet on it. One of my favorite bowl systems are taking 6 and 6 teams, because then your motivation is this. You either go the entire offseason as a team that had a winning season or a team that had a losing season. However, these are 2 6 and 6 teams. So I did go to the database, and since 2012, when both teams are 6 and 6, the dog has covered 83.3% of the time. Only 12 game sample size, but the dog has gone 10 and 2 against the spread. And it makes sense to me, because if you are the dog here, you're probably not the better team. You are a Kansas team that your win total was 1.5, playing an SEC team. So little brother, motivation, 6 and 6 dog angle has me leaning with Kansas. That offense-defense dichotomy has me leaning the over as well.